Well, welcome everybody. Just a few more minutes before we hit noon, but welcome to my kitchen. It is Tuesday and you are cooking with Evie. Today I'm going to be making something a little bit different. I thought it'd be kind of fun to use some of the seasonal pears that we have right now. And thought I'd make them a little bit differently. Use them to actually make them into pear fries. And I'm going to do it a few different ways, but with the pear fries, we're going to pair the pears with some wonderful creamy cinnamon cashew dip. So to get started, I just wanted to ask all of you if you enjoy these cooking classes that I do that are uh, highlight foods that are made very simply with very few ingredients, anti-inflammatory in nature. Please like, share, subscribe. Oh, my air fryer just went off. That's good. I was preheating that because that's one of the ways we're going to be making our pear fries today. But as I was saying, please like, share, subscribe um, to this program so that more people can enjoy it. Let's get started, shall we? All right, so I have two different types of pears here. One is a Bosc pear. You probably have seen these before. It looks like it has a brownish cover, a little bit firmer than the Bartlett pear, which you might be familiar with. You can use either one for this recipe, but you might like to look for ones that are a little bit on the firm side, not unripe, but a little bit firmer. So if they're very, very ripe, the pears might fall apart in the process, and we don't want that to happen. We want them to have a nice texture consistency to them. This is a great way to use pears, especially coming up on this holiday season, so that you can serve something that might be a little bit healthier than your typical dip and fries. You could do it as a dessert, as an appetizer, even as a snack for all of those house guests that you're inevitably going to be having. So I just wanted to show you a quick, easy way to cut your pears. What I will do is I'm going to cut down either side of the stem. Hopefully avoiding most of the core. This one has a little bit of the core in it, and I can remedy that later. But what I have left then is a very thin slice of pear. I'm going to then cut on either side of that. And I can discard now this core. And then what I'm left with is a shape like so. And I am going to just cut down so that I get a fry-shaped pear. And I'm going to do this to all the pieces that I have. On the halves that I have, I'm just going to slice down probably, about between 1/4 and 1/2 inch thick. I want to keep them fairly consistent in thickness so that they cook evenly. And I'll get some that are shaped like this now. I'm going to leave that just like that. I might just trim this one down a little bit. So again, I get my fry shape. Awesome, right? Okay. So I'm just going to go through and cut all my shapes here. Let's do this one. And this is the Bosc pear now that I'm doing. You can see it's fairly firm in consistency. That's what we're looking for. But juicy. Pears are just so sweet, and the way we're preparing them will give it, even enhance some of that sweetness, because when you cook it, the sugars just come out even more. Now, on some of these where there's some seeds that are still there, I'm just going to cut those out. Yeah? All right. And I'm just going to put them in a bowl here. And, let's cut up a little bit more of our boss pear. Now, another way that you can cut your pear, I'll give you two different ways, okay, is to cut it right down the middle. Well, this one's firmer than I thought. All right, and you can see now that we have the seeds in there. What I will do is going in with like a little melon scoop, or even with a spoon, you can scoop out that center and scoop around like so to clear out the seed and the core. And I'm just going to cut this down exactly the same way I did the bosque, and turn it sideways so I can get my little French fry shape. There you go. This is kind of an interesting shape. We might just leave that one there. All right. So I now have a bowl of fries, but they're not fried yet, right? So I'm going to add just the littlest bit of oil. I have olive oil here. You can use avocado oil if you'd like. Let's see, I still have a few of the seeds left from that bossed pear. I'm going to use my little scoop just to scoop them out. All right, did I see one more? Hanging out there. All right, let me just show you what we have here. A little bit glistening. I probably added maybe about a teaspoonful of the olive oil. I'm going to add in a little bit of cinnamon. And because I like it, I'm going to add a little bit of allspice. You could add a little bit of nutmeg if you like nutmeg. I find allspice is a nice combination of nutmeg and cinnamon. It's a little bit sweeter. I'm going to get right in there with my hands and mix that all together. I found another seed in here. I'm going to take that out. All right, mix that all together. Let me show you what we've got here. Besides getting messy. All right, can you see? It's nicely coated with my cinnamon. I'm going to turn on my heat under my stovetop here, and I'm going to divide this into two. I preheated my air fryer. If you're not familiar with air fryers, they're basically a small convection oven that cooks things rapidly. So I'm going to take out my tray for my air fryer. I had preheated this at 380 degrees for about 10 minutes. And I'm just going to add in now half of the fries that I had. This cooled down a little bit. Hopefully it won't take too much longer because it did cool down a little bit. But you want to have the fryer heated up and ready to go. All right. So I've taken about half of these now and just put them in a single layer into my air fryer. This has a tray that allows for juices to drip if you're doing it. And I'm going to put this in, and I'm going to set this for 380 degrees for 7 minutes. So 380 degrees for 7 minutes. All right, and I'm going to let that go. In the meantime, I had my pan here heating up. I don't need to add any oil to it because I did put oil onto my fries. And I'm just going to put them in, and I'm going to let them sit for those 7 minutes. I'll check in on them because I don't want them to burn. I will end up turning down my heat once it's come up to temperature. But I'm just layering them so that the cut sides are being cooked. Like so. All right? want to do is I want them just to brown. It's on a medium heat right now. I'm just going to let that go. So we now have two different ways that we're making our fries. I have another little trick. Another way that we can use our fries. Now hopefully I could do this because this pear is pretty firm. I'm just going to cut very thin slices of my pear, and I'm going to bake it on a low heat. I'm going to put it into my oven at 275 degrees for 25 minutes, and then I'm going to turn them after 25 minutes. So, let me just, okay. So I'm going to set that other part. So I have several slices here. And I have a parchment or a silpat lined tray here. And I'm just going to put my very thin slices, I would say they're probably about 1/8 of an inch thick, onto my tray. And then I'm going to pop it into my oven at 275 degrees and let that bake. So let me put this in at 275. Sorry to turn my back to you. And degrees. Okay, good. All right. So I did make some ahead so I could show you what this looks like. So here we have some more like crisps. Can you see that? Now, these have been in for a couple of rounds. If you find after the second time around, they're still a little soggy, you might want them a little crisper, put them back in. Turn them over again and put them back in. Just keep an eye on them so they don't burn. Let's take a look at how our fries are doing. These are doing well. I have them on about a medium-low heat right now. I'm going to give it a few more minutes, and then I'll show you what that looks like, okay? Very good. And we've got about 4 more minutes on our air fryer. All right, so we now have our fries in the making. Let's now move on to making our dip. So I'm going to bring out my blender. This is a variation. It's a non-dairy way of making a dip. Now, many times you see sour cream being used. I like to keep it non-dairy because that's more anti-inflammatory. So today, what I'm going to do is I have soaked some cashews. I like to soak the cashews for 2 reasons. One, because there are phytates on the outside of the cashew that sometimes make them difficult to digest. And they also can bind to important metals or nutrients that we are eating in our food. So I like to soak them. The other thing is it softens them up so we get a nice creamy dip. Now I will tell you, originally I was looking to use walnuts for this. And I did a couple of different batches experimenting, as I want to do, and I just didn't like it. I was really wanting to use those walnuts because they are so rich in omega-3 fatty acids that are so important for us. They're so good for our heart health and for inflammation, anti-inflammation. I just found that it didn't come out creamy. I did do half and half, and that's pretty good. But in the end, I'm going back to just using straight cashews. Feel free, if you have the walnuts, to use walnuts as well. All right, let's take a look at what's going on in our pan here. you can see we're getting a nice browned, crisp surface to our pears. I'm just going to turn these over now so that the other side gets a chance to brown as well. You may find that you want to turn these more than 2 times, just as with the chips that you have in the oven, just to get them to the right consistency. But what's nice is by doing this, it caramelizes the sugars that are naturally in the pear, making them sweeter. So you don't have to add a lot of sweetness to this dish. All right, I'm going to put that back on. I turn them over. Let's get back to, let's see if got 1 more minute on my air fryer. I'm going to turn those over as well. I'll show you what those look like. In the meantime, let's get started with our dip. So I added in now my cashews. I had 1 cup of cashews. I soaked them. I like to put them in hot to boiling water and let them soak at least 20 minutes. These have probably been in for about an hour. All right, let's check out what's going on in our fryer. All right. All right, these are starting to brown. I may want to do these a little bit longer than I thought. It's probably because it wasn't, remember I said it wasn't as preheated as well. Kind of cooled down a little bit, but that's okay. That's quite all right. I'm going to leave these in, let these go. I'm going to flip them. They haven't browned very much. But that's a live cooking show for you. You just never know what you're going to get, right? All right. So, all right. We're just going to let this go in now. I'm going to put it in for another 7 minutes. All right. Let that go. Let it do its thing. Meanwhile, check in on our fries here. They look like they're doing much better. All right, I'm going to turn this down a little bit. Don't want them to burn. Maybe turn to toast another edge on some of them. Wonderful. Oh, this is going great. Good. I'm going to let that go. All right, let's take a look again at our dip that we're making. So I added in now 1 cup of soaked cashews. As I said, I like to soak it so that the phytates are neutralized a little bit more and they're creamy. All right, so we have the cashews added. I want to add in a little bit of zing to it. So as I was saying, like sometimes you'll see these dips and it's made with cream cheese. The cream cheese will add a little bit of a tang to it. So I'm going to add in a teaspoon of my fresh squeezed lemon juice. And I might decide to go back and add a little bit more if I want a little bit zing to it. We're going to have to taste that and see. And I'm going to add in a teaspoon of cinnamon. So remember we added some onto the pears. We're going to have a little bit more in our dip. And a 1/4 teaspoon of that allspice that I like. Hopefully you do too. Now, you could use nutmeg if you like. Nutmeg tends to be a little bit more bitter, so you might want to use a little bit less, maybe 1/8 of a teaspoon of the nutmeg to try it out at first. But if that's what you have, you should use it. That's the beauty of being able to cook in your own kitchen, right? You can control the ingredients and use what you have and improvise when necessary. All right, I'm going to add in a 1/4 cup of filtered water, and I have another couple of tablespoons just to see consistency-wise if we need to add more. And I've found that usually we do. So I'm going to add in 1 teaspoon of vanilla. By the way, if you'd like a written recipe, please go to my website, eveyschweig.com, where all of the recipes from my Cooking with Evey classes are, as well as additional recipes that are all anti-inflammatory, healthy versions of maybe some of your favorites. You should check it out and see. All right, let's see how we're doing over here. Oh, these are looking good. I'm just going to let them keep going as we're cooking here. All right. So I just added in my vanilla. I'm sorry, I'm going to add in my in vanilla. Did I add in my vanilla? That's why I should never talk in between. All right, so we added our lemon juice. We added in our, I think I added in, yes I did. Okay, good. Whew. All right, I'm going to add in honey. Now, you could add in maple syrup as well. I'm going to add in 2 teaspoons of honey. And we'll taste it afterwards and see whether maybe we might want to add a little bit more. If you're adding maple syrup, you can add an equal amount of maple syrup as well. All right. Clear out that spoon. Very good. All right. Now we're going to make a little noise. Cover your ears for a minute. All right. I like to just pulse it at first, get everything mixing. If you have a Vitamix, you can do this in your Vitamix as well. I just turned off our fries on the stove. And I'm just going to scrape down what we have here. Get everything starting to mix. Here is to get everything nice and creamy and a nice consistency. This is looking good. Sorry for the noise. I know. Why do I pick these recipes that are so noisy, right? All right. One more. All right. So another nice thing about this, we're adding in some nice anti-inflammatory spices. So think of spices when you're thinking about foods because they also have nutritional value. Cinnamon, very good. Nutmeg, allspice, all of those are anti-inflammatory in nature. All right, so I'm just going to put this base. Let's see. Let me just test the consistency of our dip. Let's see how we're doing. So here's the dip at this point. Yum, 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 yum. I might just give it one little. I'm going to, the sweetness is perfect. I'm going to add just a little bit more lemon juice, just to make it a little tangier. So I'm adding in about another ½ teaspoon of lemon juice. And I hear that my air fryer has nice. Oh, that's perfect. So cashews are actually a very sweet nut, one of the sweeter nuts. That's why they're so popular. And it's also creamy. It blends up very well, which is why it works so well for this recipe. Now, okay. Now we've got some fries going. All right. While I'm plating this, I'm just going to give it another few minutes. And let's make a dessert or a snack or an appetizer. A plate and a serving dish for the dip. I'm going to use a spoon for this so that I can scoop it out a little bit more neatly. This will make, about 1.5 cups of dip. You can store it in the refrigerator with leftovers, because there's plenty here. As you can see, it's a nice creamy consistency. Look at that. Beautiful. All right. Lovely. Get this out of the way. Let me just neaten it up a little bit. Okay. We can put a little bit of our cinnamon sprinkled on top. I kind of like to sprinkle the plate with it as well, just to get the plate all ready for our fries. All right, so let's see what we have. So we have now the pan-fried fries. Here, I'll show you this way. All right, and I'll show you the finished plate as well. Now, the pan-fried fries will be a little juicier than in the air fryer. But you can see how quick and easy it was to make these. So we've got some of our pan fries there. All right, now, here's our dropped it right on the plate. Wonderful. Air fries. Now these taste great when they first come out. The outsides are nice and crispy. The inside is warm, much like a French fry. But they can be reheated. You can pop it back into the air fryer to crisp it up a little bit again. Let's add some of our chips. All right. Now I do have some apples here that I did as well. Apples are a great way. They make great chips as well. All right. There we go. All right. So here we have, let me come around and I'll show you. Here we have our finished dish. We have our dip, right? And here we have the pan fried, air fried, and our chips. And you can spoon it out if you'd like, or just dip it right in and enjoy Yum. Oh, that's so good. What's nice about this, as I said, is you're not adding in added sugars. Except for the honey. I was a little bit. But far less than what you would do if you were having a processed food or a cake or something like that that you're buying. You can control the sweetness level and what types of sugars you're adding in. In this case, all we did was cooked up our pears to caramelize the natural sugars that are naturally found in the fruit. And that's bound up with fiber so that there's not as quick a sugar spike that you might get with processed sugar foods. So that's our dish for today. As I said, you can serve it up as an appetizer, you can serve it as a snack or as a dessert. It's that good. It makes a nice presentation. There's 3 different ways that you can use and make your pear fries. Nice and crunchy. For the coming holidays, this is great. Hope to get to see you next week. We'll be making another anti-inflammatory, healthy version of foods that you love. So, until then, have a great week. Again, please like, share, subscribe to this program so that others can enjoy it as well. All right, I'll see you soon. Stay healthy, eat well. Bye-bye for now.